The examination room smelled like antiseptic and lavender, an attempt at comfort that only made Victoria's stomach tighten. She sat on the paper-covered table, the hospital gown rough against her skin. Waiting for answers about the pain that had stolen 3 weeks of sleep, Dr. Helena Morse entered without knocking. Her silver hair pulled tight, eyes fixed on a glowing tablet. I understand you're ready to proceed with the procedure we discussed. Victoria's pulse stumbled. Procedure? I'm here about stomach pain. Doctor's head snapped up. You are Victoria Carter, correct? Here for the scheduled fertility treatment. I'm a college student. I don't know what you're talking about. The color drained from Dr. Morse's face. She backed toward the door, tablet trembling in her hands. Excuse me? Victoria heard urgent whispers in the hallway. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Something was very, very wrong. When Dr. Morse returned, another doctor followed her. His badge read Dr. Samuel Foster, and his expression told Victoria everything before he spoke. Miss Carter, there's been a mistake. A serious one. His voice was too calm, the kind of calm that preceded devastation. We have another patient with your exact name? She was scheduled for artificial insemination today. The room tilted. What are you saying? Dr. Morse's hands shook. The procedure was completed 20 minutes ago. Before we realized the error, Victoria's voice came out strangled. You're telling me you inseminated me? How does that even happen? Multiple system failures, Dr. Foster said. Your files were merged in our database. The nurse didn't verify identity protocol. We proceeded based on incorrect information. Reverse it. Whatever you did, undo it right now. It's not reversible. Dr. Morse barely whispered it. The genetic material belongs to Julian Westbrook. Even through the shock, Victoria knew that name. Billionaire. Real estate empire. Face on magazine covers and charity galas. This can't be real. Victoria's voice cracked. I came here for stomach pain. She dressed with shaking hands, ignoring their pleas to stay, to discuss legal implications and medical options. The subway ride home blurred past her. When she finally told her roommate Josie what happened, the words felt like they belonged to someone else's nightmare. 3 weeks later, Victoria stared at the positive pregnancy test until the lines blurred that evening. Her phone rang. Miss Carter, this is Catherine Hayes, legal counsel for Julian Westbrook. Mr. Westbrook would like to meet with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. A car will be sent to your address. It wasn't a request, fine, Victoria said. I'll be ready. She caught her reflection in the darkened window. Scared, yes. But underneath the fear burned something fiercer. Tomorrow, she would meet the billionaire whose life had collided with hers in the worst possible way, and nothing would ever be the same. The black Mercedes looked obscene, parked outside Victoria's building, all polished chrome and tinted windows among rusting sedans and cracked pavement. Neighbors stared as she climbed inside, leather seats cold against her legs despite the navy dress Josie had picked out. Westbrook. Tower pierced the Manhattan skyline like a blade. The driver led her through a private elevator. That opened directly into a penthouse office, where floor 2 ceiling windows framed the city below like it was something Julian Westbrook owned. He stood with his back to her, phone pressed to his ear, discussing numbers that made Victoria's student loan debt look like pocket change. When he turned, she understood why magazines couldn't stop photographing him. Sharp jaw, dark hair, touched with early silver eyes, the color of a winter storm. I'll call you back. He ended the call without breaking eye contact. Miss Carter, Mr. Westbrook. Sit. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Victoria remained standing. His mouth twitched almost a smile. You're angry, you think? The words came out sharper than intended. Your lawyer summons me like I'm an employee. I didn't ask for any of this. Neither did I. He moved to a bar cart, poured 2 fingers of whiskey. The clinic's incompetence has created a situation that affects both our lives. We need to discuss options. Options. Victoria's laugh was bitter. You mean money? How much to make me disappear? Julian's jaw tightened. I'm prepared to offer you $5 million. In exchange, you terminate the pregnancy and sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. No one will ever know this happened. The number should have staggered her. Instead, it made her furious. You think you can just buy your way out of this? I think I'm offering you a solution to an impossible problem. He drank, watching her over the rim of his glass. You're 22. You have your entire life ahead of you. This would derail everything. And what about you? What does this derail for you? Something flickered behind his eyes, too fast to identify. My life is complicated in ways you don't understand. And explain it to me. I don't owe you explanations. I owe you compensation for a mistake that wasn't your fault or mine. Victoria stepped closer, close enough to smell his cologne, expensive and subtle. I'm not terminating the pregnancy. Julian set down his glass with controlled precision. Why not? Because this baby didn't ask to be created this way, and I won't punish it for someone else's mistake. Her voice steadied. I didn't choose this, but now that it's happened, I'm seeing it through. You have no idea what you're signing up for. Then tell me. He stared at her for a long moment, and Victoria saw something raw flicker across his face before the mask of control slammed back into place. My ex-wife spent 5 years trying to get pregnant. 5 years of treatments, disappointments, watching her hope die a little more each month. Wait. His voice went flat. When she finally accepted it would never happen, she left. Said I'd stolen her chance at the only thing she ever wanted. Victoria's anger faltered. I'm sorry, don't be. I'm telling you this so you understand why I arranged the insemination in the first place. I wanted a child, an heir, but on my terms, without the complications of a relationship. He laughed, the sound hollow. The universe apparently has other plans. So what now? Julian met her eyes, and Victoria felt the weight of his next words before he spoke them. How we figure out how to navigate this together? Because whether we like it or not, we're connected for the next 18 years minimum. I don't need your money. You're carrying my child. You'll take my support whether you want it or not? His tone left no room for argument. I'll have my lawyer draw up an agreement. Medical expenses, living costs, education fund, everything you and the baby need. And in exchange? In exchange, you let me be part of this. Not as an obligation. As a choice? Victoria studied his face, searching for manipulation or control. She found only exhaustion and something that looked dangerously like hope. One condition, she said finally. We do this honestly. No games, no hidden agendas. If we're going to be in each other's lives, I need to trust you. Julian extended his hand. Deal? His palm was warm against hers, the handshake lasting a beat too long. When Victoria pulled away, her skin still tingled where they'd touched. She turned to leave, then paused at the elevator. Julian? He looked up, surprise flickering at her use of his first name. This thing with your ex-wife. You said she left because she couldn't get pregnant. Victoria hesitated. Did you ever tell her it wasn't her fault? His expression shuddered. What do you mean? The clinic wouldn't have your genetic material unless you were tested for fertility, which means you knew whether the problem was yours or hers. Silence stretched between them, heavy with implication. Get out, Julian said quietly. But Victoria had already seen the answer in his eyes, and as the elevator doors closed, she realized Julian Westbrook was far more damaged than his money could ever reveal. 2 months later, Victoria stood in Julian's penthouse kitchen, morning sickness churning her stomach as she tried to keep down dry toast. He'd insisted she move into one of his properties after her apartment's heating failed in early December. She'd refused until Josie nearly froze during finals week. The penthouse had a guest wing, separate entrance, private space. Victoria told herself it was practical, nothing more. You need to eat more than that. Julian appeared in the doorway, dressed for work, coffee in hand. Tell that to the baby. Victoria managed a weak smile. Your future heir is very opinionated about breakfast. Something softened in Julian's expression. Over the past weeks, she'd watched his walls crack in small ways. The way he'd appear with ginger tea without being asked. how he'd rearranged his schedule to attend every doctor's appointment, the night he'd found her crying over her thesis deadline and spent 4 hours helping her organize research. "I have something for you." He set down an envelope. "The clinic's settlement offer, $15 million. They're desperate to avoid a lawsuit." Victoria stared at the number. Life-changing money. Enough to ensure her child never struggled the way she had. "What do you think I should do?" "I think you should take it and invest it wisely." Julian sat across from her. "And I think you should let me help you navigate the legal complexity. Why are you doing all this?" "Because it's my responsibility." "That's not what I asked." For a moment, Victoria thought he wouldn't answer. Then he reached across the table and took her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles. "Because when I look at you, I don't see a mistake. I see someone stronger than anyone I've ever met. Someone who looked at an impossible situation and chose courage over convenience." His voice dropped. "Someone I'm starting to care about more than I should." Victoria's heart hammered. "Julian, we can't." "I know." He released her hand, standing abruptly. "I know all the reasons why this is complicated. But I need you to know the truth before things go any further." "What truth?" He turned toward the window, shoulders rigid. "The fertility issue with my ex-wife. You were right. The problem was mine. Low sperm count, genetic markers that made natural conception nearly impossible. Then why did you let her think because I was a coward?" The admission came out raw. "Emily wanted children desperately. When the doctors told us the odds, I couldn't face seeing her look at me differently. So I let her blame herself. Let her go through treatment after treatment, knowing it was pointless." He laughed bitterly. "She left thinking she was broken. I let her leave thinking that—" Victoria's chest ached. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know who you're trusting with your child." Julian finally met her eyes. "I'm not a good man, Victoria. I'm selfish and controlling, and I destroy the people I care about. That's not what I see." "Then you're not looking hard enough." Victoria stood, moving closer until she could see the self-loathing etched into every line of his face. "I see someone who made terrible mistakes. I also see someone who spent 2 months proving he can be better. You should hate me, probably." She reached up, touching his jaw, feeling the muscle jump beneath her fingers. "But I don't." Julian's hand covered hers, pressing her palm against his face. "If we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back." "I know. You're carrying my child. The power dynamic is I'm not some naive girl you're taking advantage of." Victoria's voice was steady. "I know exactly what I'm doing." Julian kissed her then, fierce and desperate, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. Victoria's world narrowed to the heat of his mouth, the strength of his arms around her. The way her body fit against his like missing pieces, finally finding their match, when they broke apart, both breathing hard. Julian rested his forehead against hers. "Tell me this isn't crazy." "It's completely crazy." Victoria smiled. "But when has anything about us been sane?" The next 3 weeks blurred together in a haze of stolen moments and growing intimacy. Julian worked from home more, his presence a constant that Victoria found herself craving. They talked for hours, sharing histories and fears and dreams. He introduced her to his world carefully, always watching to ensure she was comfortable. Victoria introduced him to hers, dragging him to her favorite coffee shop, where students hunched over laptops and nobody recognized his face. Then, on a Tuesday evening, when snow fell soft against the windows, Catherine Hayes arrived unannounced. Julian's lawyer looked polished as ever. But Victoria sensed something wrong in the tight set of her mouth. "We need to talk," Catherine said. Privately, Julian glanced at Victoria. "Whatever you need to say, you can say in front of her." Catherine's expression hardened. "Very well. I've been contacted by Emily Westbrook. She knows about the pregnancy." The temperature in the room plummeted. "How?" Julian's voice went dangerously quiet. "Someone from the clinic leaked it. Probably got paid handsomely." Catherine pulled out her tablet. "She's threatening to go public with the full story. The medical mistake, your role in the fertility program, everything. Unless you meet her terms, What terms? Catherine's eyes slid to Victoria, then back to Julian. She wants custody of the child. Claims you owe her after what you put her through. And she's demanding you publicly admit the fertility issues were yours, not hers. Victoria felt like she'd been punched. She can't do that. The baby is mine. Actually, the legal precedent is murky at best. Catherine's voice was clinical. Given the unusual circumstances of conception, a skilled lawyer could argue multiple angles. Julian's face had gone completely blank, the shutters slamming down. What else? She wants you to resume your relationship. Claims this is fate giving you a second chance? Catherine paused. Julian, she has documentation. Emails, messages, testimony from your marriage counselor. She's building a case that you systematically destroyed her mental health by lying about the fertility issues. She's right. Julian's voice was hollow. I did destroy her. Don't do this. Victoria grabbed his arm, panic flooding her veins. Don't let her manipulate you. This isn't manipulation. It's consequences. Julian pulled away, and the distance felt like miles. I owe Emily the truth. I owe her more than that. What about us? What about the baby? The baby deserves parents who aren't built on lies and medical mistakes. He couldn't meet her eyes. Maybe Emily's right. Maybe this is fate giving me a chance to fix what I broke. Victoria's world shattered. You said there was no going back. I was wrong. You're lying. Her voice cracked. Look at me and tell me you don't care about what we have. Julian finally met her gaze, and Victoria saw the devastation there, quickly masked by cold determination. What we have is a beautiful mistake. But Emily deserves better than what I gave her. And you deserve better than someone who destroys everything he touches. So you're just going to sacrifice us to make yourself feel less guilty. I'm going to do what's right. He turned to Catherine. Set up a meeting with Emily. Tell her I'll consider her terms. Catherine nodded and left. Victoria stood frozen, trying to process how everything had collapsed so quickly. You need to leave, Julian said quietly. I'll have your things sent to wherever you choose to live. The financial arrangements will remain in place. You'll want for nothing, except you, especially me. Victoria grabbed her coat with shaking hands. At the door, she turned back one last time. When you realize what you're throwing away, don't come looking for me, because I won't be waiting. The door closed behind her with brutal finality, and Julian Westbrook stood alone in his empty penthouse. Wondering if redemption was worth the price of his soul, Victoria spent 3 days in Josie's apartment, ignoring her phone, ignoring the world, trying to ignore the way her heart had been carved out of her chest. The morning sickness got worse, stress amplifying every symptom. Josie brought her ginger tea and rage in equal measure. He's an idiot, Josie said, for the 100th time. A coward hiding behind guilt. Victoria stared at the ceiling, hand resting on her barely there bump. He thinks he's being noble. Noble would be fighting for you. This is self-sabotage. A knock interrupted them. Josie opened the door to find Catherine Hayes standing there, perfectly composed despite the early hour. Miss Carter, I need 5 minutes of your time. Tell your client I have nothing to say to him. This isn't from Julian. He doesn't know I'm here. Catherine stepped inside uninvited. And what I'm about to tell you could destroy my career. That got Victoria's attention. Catherine sat, her professional mask cracking. Emily Westbrook is lying. About everything. What? 3 years ago, I represented Emily in a separate matter. A lawsuit against a former employer for wrongful termination. Catherine pulled out her phone, showing Victoria a document. During discovery, we found medical records. Emily had gotten pregnant shortly after leaving Julian. She terminated it. Victoria's blood ran cold. She could get pregnant. Not icily, but yes. The fertility issues were mutual, not solely Julian's. But she's rewritten history to paint herself as the victim. Catherine's expression hardened. Worse, she's not doing this alone. Someone's feeding her information. Someone with access to Julian's private affairs. Who? I have suspicions, but no proof yet. Catherine met Victoria's eyes. Emily's planning to take everything. The baby Julian's reputation, his company. She's built a case designed to destroy him legally, financially, and personally, and she's using his guilt as the weapon. Why are you telling me this? Because in 20 years of knowing Julian Westbrook, I've never seen him happy. Not until you. Catherine stood, sacrificing himself for a woman who's manipulating his past trauma. Someone needs to stop him before he signs away everything that matters. He made his choice. No, he made the choice he thinks he deserves. There's a difference. Catherine headed for the door, then paused. Emily's meeting Julian tonight at 8. The Oak Room? If you want to fight for him, that's your window. After Catherine left, Victoria sat in silence, mind racing. Are you going? Josie asked. I don't know. Victoria's hand moved to her stomach again. He chose her. Maybe I should respect that. Or maybe he needs someone to show him he's worth fighting for. That evening, Victoria stood outside the Oak Room, her heart hammering. Through the windows, she could see Julian at a corner table, looking hollowed out, barely recognizing the man who'd kissed her like she was his salvation. Across from him sat Emily Westbrook. Beautiful, polished, predatory. Victoria almost turned around. Then she saw Emily reach across the table, covering Julian's hand with hers, saw the calculated softness in her expression, and Victoria knew Catherine was right. She pushed through the doors. Julian's head snapped up as she approached, shock and something desperate flashing across his face. Victoria, what are you, don't sign anything? Victoria's voice was steady. Not until you hear what I have to say. Emily's smile was ice. This is a private conversation. It's about my child. That makes it my business. Victoria turned to Julian. Catherine told me everything. About Emily's pregnancy, about the manipulation. Catherine had no right. She had every right to protect someone she cares about from being destroyed. Victoria slid into the chair beside Julian, close enough to feel the tension radiating from his body. Emily, tell him the truth. Tell him about the pregnancy 3 years ago. Emily's composure cracked for just a second. I don't know what. Lies Catherine's been spreading. Medical records don't lie. You terminated a pregnancy 6 months after leaving Julian. Victoria leaned forward. Which means the fertility issues weren't his alone. You could conceive. You just couldn't conceive with him. Instead of accepting that some couples aren't genetically compatible, you blamed him. Let him blame himself. That's not. And now you're using his guilt to take his child. A child you have no biological or legal claim to. Emily's mask shattered. He owes me years of my life, years of hope he stole. He owes you the truth, which he should have given you from the start. But he doesn't owe you his future. Victoria's hand found Julian's under the table, squeezing. And he definitely doesn't owe you our child. Our child. Emily's laugh was vicious. You think this accident makes you a couple? You're a convenient womb, nothing more? Maybe. Victoria didn't flinch. But I'm the one he chose before you manipulated him with guilt. I'm the one carrying his baby. And I'm the one who's going to fight for him, even when he won't fight for himself. Julian's hand tightened around hers, trembling. Emily stood abruptly. You'll regret this, both of you. I'll drag your names through every court, every headline. No, you won't. Catherine appeared from across the restaurant, another woman beside her. Because Miss Chen here is a journalist who's been investigating your fraud case from 2019. The one you settled quietly. The one involving fabricated medical claims. Emily went pale. If you continue this vendetta, we release everything. Your history of manipulation, the pregnancy you terminated, the lies you've built your case on. Catherine's voice was surgical. Walk away now, and we stay silent. Your reputation remains intact. Emily looked between them, fury and calculation warring on her face. Finally, she grabbed her coat. He'll destroy you too, she hissed at Victoria. That's what he does. Then she was gone. Victoria sagged in her chair, adrenaline crash hitting hard. Julian was staring at her like he'd never seen her before. Why did you do that? 'Cause you're an idiot. Victoria's eyes burned with unshed tears. Because you were about to sacrifice everything that matters for some twisted idea of redemption. I heard her. Yes, you did. And that's something you'll have to live with. Victoria cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. But hurting yourself more doesn't erase what you did to her. It just means 2 people are destroyed instead of 1. You should hate me. I'm starting to. Victoria smiled through tears. But I also love you, and I'm tired of pretending I don't. Julian pulled her into his arms, his face buried in her hair, shoulders shaking. "I'm sorry, God, Victoria. I'm so sorry, I know." She held him tighter. "But if you ever try to make decisions for us again without talking to me first, I will make you regret it." "Understood." They stayed like that, wrapped around each other, in the middle of the restaurant until Catherine cleared her throat. "Not to ruin the moment, but we should discuss next steps. Emily won't go quietly forever." Julian pulled back, wiping his eyes, looking more human than Victoria had ever seen him. "Then we make sure she doesn't have ammunition." He turned to Victoria. "No more secrets. No more running. We face everything together." "Together," Victoria agreed. But as they left the restaurant, Victoria's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Congratulations on your victory. But you might want to ask Julian, who's really been feeding Emily information. The betrayal is closer than you think." Victoria's blood froze. She looked at Catherine, at Julian, at the world they'd just fought to protect, and realized the real battle was just beginning. Victoria stared at the message, ice spreading through her veins. "Julian, who else knows about the pregnancy? It's about Emily's plans. Just my inner circle. Catherine, my assistant Marcus, He stopped, face draining of color. "My brother." "You have a brother?" "Half-brother, Thomas." Leanne's jaw clenched. "We're not close. Haven't been for years." Catherine's expression went sharp. "When did you last speak to him?" 2 months ago. He needed money. I refused." Julian's eyes went dark. Said I'd regret it. The pieces clicked together in Victoria's mind. He's been feeding Emily everything. Your schedule, your vulnerabilities, probably even your relationship with me. "Thomas wouldn't?" Julian stopped. "Yes, he would. He's done worse for less." They spent the next hour at Julian's penthouse, Catherine, on her phone pulling strings, while Julian stared out at the city he'd built his empire in. Victoria sat beside him, hand on his shoulder, feeling him fracture under the weight of another betrayal. "He's my brother," Julian said quietly. "The only family I have left." "Family doesn't destroy you." Victoria's voice was gentle. "Not real family." Julian turned to her, eyes haunted. "What if I'm like him? What if I'm like my father was, using people, destroying them? What if I do that to you? To our child? You won't. Can't know that." "Yes, I can." Victoria moved to stand between his knees, hands framing his face. "Because I see who you are when you think no one's watching. It's the way you make sure I eat breakfast. You moved all your meetings so you wouldn't miss a single ultrasound. The fact that you're terrified of being a bad father, which proves you'll be a good one." "Victoria?" "I'm not done." She smiled despite the fear clawing at her chest. "You made terrible mistakes. You hurt people. But you're also the man who looked at me like I was worth fighting for. Who held me when I cried about morning sickness. Who reads parenting books when he thinks I'm asleep. You knew about that? You're not subtle." She kissed him softly. "The point is, you're not your father. You're not your brother. You're Julian Westbrook, and you're choosing every day to be better than the man you were." Julian pulled her close, and Victoria felt his heart hammering against her chest. "I love you. I should have said it weeks ago. I know. You show it in 1,000 other ways." She pulled back. "But now we need to deal with Thomas." Catherine appeared in the doorway. "We have a problem. Thomas just contacted a tabloid. They're running the story tomorrow morning. Medical mistake, billionaire scandal, all of it." Victoria's world tilted. "Can you stop it?" "Not legally. But I have another option." Catherine looked at Julian. "You go public first. Control the narrative. Tell the truth on your terms. That exposes Victoria too. I'm already exposed." Victoria squeezed his hand. "But if we do this together, we tell our story. Not Thomas's version. Not Emily's. Ours." Julian looked between them, weighing options, calculating risks. Then something shifted in his expression. Acceptance. Resolution. Set up a press conference. 2 hours. The next 90 minutes blurred together. Catherine drafted statements. Julian's PR team assembled. Victoria changed into one of the dresses Julian had insisted on buying her, simple and elegant, hand resting on her no visible bump. You don't have to do this, Julian said for the 10th time. You can stay anonymous. I'll take all the heat. We're in this together, remember? Victoria checked her reflection, seeing a woman she barely recognized. Stronger, fiercer. Our child deserves to know their parents didn't hide from the truth. The press conference was held in Westbrook Tower's main hall, cameras and reporters packed tight. Victoria stood beside Julian, his hand warm in hers, as he told the world everything. The medical mistake, the pregnancy, his history with Emily, and his part in their marriage's destruction, his half-brother's betrayal. When it was Victoria's turn to speak, she looked directly into the cameras. I didn't choose this situation, but I'm choosing what comes next. Her voice was steady. I'm choosing to build a life with a man who's flawed and damaged and trying desperately to be better. I'm choosing to bring a child into a world that's complicated and messy and real. She looked at Julian. I'm choosing love even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The questions came fast and brutal. Was she after his money? How could she trust him? Did she expect this relationship to last? Julian fielded most of them with practiced calm. But when one reporter asked if he regretted the mistake that started everything, he pulled Victoria closer. I regret the pain it caused. I regret the clinic's incompetence. But I don't regret finding her. His eyes met Victoria's. Some mistakes change your life. Some save it. After the conference, they retreated to the penthouse, exhausted, vulnerable, exposed to the world in ways neither had planned. Julian pulled her into his arms as they watched the news coverage spread. Your thesis advisor called, he said quietly. Apparently your university is offering full support. They're proud of how you handled the media, and you're bored. Emergency meeting tomorrow. But Catherine thinks they'll stand behind me. He kissed her temple. We're going to be okay. Are we? Julian turned her to face him. I can't promise this will be easy. Thomas is still out there. Emily might retaliate. The media won't leave us alone for months. It's not what I'm asking. I know. He placed his hand over hers on her stomach, feeling the slight swell of their child. You're asking if I'm going to run again. If I'm going to let fear or guilt or shame drive us apart? No, the word was absolute. I'm done running. I'm done sacrificing the people I love to punish myself for past mistakes. He dropped to his knees, pressing his forehead against her stomach. I'm going to fight for this family. For you. For our child. Every single day. Victoria's tears fell freely. That's all I needed to hear. 6 months later, Victoria Carter Westbrook held her daughter for the first time. Watching Julian cry as he cradled the tiny, perfect human they'd created from chaos and choice, the tabloids had moved on to other scandals. Emily had disappeared into obscurity. Thomas had been cut off completely, his betrayal a scar that would never fully heal. But in the quiet of the hospital room, with dawn breaking over Manhattan and their daughter's fingers wrapped around Julian's pinky, none of that mattered. What are we calling her? Julian whispered, awestruck. Victoria smiled. Hope, because that's what she is. What we are. Hope Westbrook. Julian kissed his daughter's forehead, then Victoria's lips. Perfect. They weren't perfect. Their relationship had been forged in trauma and mistake, tested by betrayal and fear. They would stumble, fight, struggle with the weight of their pasts, but they would do it together. And that was enough. The end.